everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I'm a pastry chef with a severe sweet tooth. And I'm here to show you how to make the best keto desserts possible. So if you enjoy these recipes, please consider hitting the subscribe button, giving the video a thumbs up, leaving me a comment, sharing with all your friends and family. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new keto desserts almost every Saturday. Today, you are joining me here for a little experiment in trying to make a keto pumpkin spice donut. And if it works out, it's only 2 grams of net carbs per donut. Basically, this is a little look inside how I figure out new recipes. Like, I'm taking my apple cider donut recipe from last year, and this year I'm making it into a pumpkin spice donut. So let's get started. So this recipe is going to be pretty similar to my apple cider donut recipe. The only difference is we're going to be adding pumpkin puree. So starts off with 5 ounces of soft butter. It's actually finally getting chilly around here, so my butter's not as soft as normal. 5 exactly. To that, we are adding 3/4 of a cup or 144 grams of a golden erythritol blend. This one happens to be Monkfruit erythritol. All erythritols have another type of sweetener in them. Most of them do, to make them a 1-for-1 with sugar. We're going to whip this until it's super light and fluffy, until it's less grainy, and that'll help with the cooling effect of the sweetener and also give you a better texture of baked good. While that's whipping, we're going to measure out our dry ingredients and our pumpkin puree. You're going to want to stop and scrape down a couple of times, especially if it's not very warm. The butter's not getting whipped up very quickly. If it's warm in your house, this process happens a lot quicker. That's why not just one time for how long it takes to whip something up, because depending on your environment, it could take longer, it could take less time. So whip it until it's super light and fluffy. It's getting much lighter in color. So we're going to whip that just a little bit longer, but everything is ready to go. Okay, I say that's pretty whipped up there. I have 2 eggs here that I had soaking in some warm water so that they're room temperature when they go into here, so that they don't seize up our butter mixture. And then we're just going to add our pumpkin and our sifted, whisked dry ingredients, and then pipe them into our donut molds. Stop and scrape all that butter into there, and egg. One more whip and we'll add the pumpkin. Scrape that down. See, even my pumpkin was at room temperature because it's straight out of the can, and it still seized up our butter. It's how cold it is in here. So whip that up as much as you can. Try to get it a little harmonious. You can add any extracts you want to this. I'm not going to do that. Could add caramel, I guess. But I got the pumpkin spice and the cinnamon going in with the dry. It looks pretty good. Now for our dry. This batter is going to probably be thicker than our normal batters because pumpkin is thicker than buttermilk, but hopefully it'll turn out a good donut. Smells delicious. I think that's good. Time to pipe. Make sure you get all the batter off. Now I'll give it a little stir. Make sure it's all really incorporated. Best way is to have a big bag. I'd use a gallon freezer if you don't have a piping bag, because this is so thick with you having to put a lot of pressure. A regular Ziploc is probably going to burst. Freezer bags are a lot thicker and stronger. I do a couple rounds here. I'm not going to overfill like I normally do. Now my apple cider ones made 15. We'll see how many this makes. You just want to have a tip, probably about the size of a dime maybe. You only want to fill these like 2/3 up, because if you have to bake them too long, they'll tend to get dry on the outside and be like almost overdone once they're done on the inside. So it's one time around, and they'll blow up over the top of this too. So they won't really look like donuts anymore. It's hard to get all of it with this in your hand, so you can always put it up a little bit, set it down. That was 12, so hopefully I didn't overfill them. Okay, I have written down 7 and 7 on my little cheat sheet for donuts, but I've never made these before, so we're gonna see how long they take. I'm gonna start with 7, turn them, and see where we're at, and determine how many more minutes I need. Seven more minutes. They are still very soft, so I'm going to let them go another 2 minutes. Okay, I turned them and set them for another 2 minutes. Now they are done. So more like my sour cream donuts, they took 18. As long as they're not squishy. You don't want them dry though, so you don't want them to go too long over when they are completely done. So unfortunately, we gotta wait for these to cool for a little while, and then I think we're gonna make a little bit of a glaze for these guys. Pans are now cool to the touch, so I'm gonna get them out and onto a cooling rack. That's just gonna help them cool faster. You can probably keep them in here and they'll be fine, but this will make it cool faster. And then we're gonna put this onto a half sheet tray. That way it'll catch all the drizzle or the coating we're gonna put on these guys. These ones are a little bit warmer. I did put them back in because I noticed the middle one was a little soft right here. So I put them in for another 2 minutes. So I think they're good now. Just gotta make sure they're all not gooey anymore. These guys are a little bit bigger than these ones. Like I said, I think I filled these a little bit too much. So you just wanna keep a close eye on them when they're in there so you don't over bake them. I probably could have gotten 15 out of here. I hate that though. I'm gonna have to eat like a big one or something because I can't sell if they're like really different than each other. Someone will be like, hey, that one's bigger than that one. So that's why I tend to weigh everything. Okay, so these just gotta cool completely and then we'll get on to the frosting. It takes like 2 seconds to put together. Okay, our donuts are pretty much cool. I just have about a cup of powdered sweetener here, 120 grams. I did not sift it because we're adding liquid and it's all gonna kind of dissolve. I put a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. You can put whatever you want. You can do pumpkin pie spice, what have you. You just need a keto liquid of choice. You can even add some pumpkin puree in if you want, but it's gonna make it thick. So I'm adding a little bit at a time to my powdered sugar mixture and giving it a whisk. It's 2 to 3 ounces of liquid. 1/4 cup, 2 ounces, 4 tablespoons. You got lumps, but they'll dissolve. Definitely gonna need the rest of the 2 ounces. Depending on how warm your donut is how thick you'll want this. If it's warm still, it will kind of drip down when you dunk it. It'll kind of melt and drip a little bit. So if you have it really thick and your donuts are warm, that'll work good. If your donuts are completely cold, make it pretty thin. Like that. Do a little tap, tap, tap. You can do a little tap, 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 tap. There you go. Frosted pumpkin spice donut. Looks delicious. There we go. Do a nice swirl. There you go. Looks delish. You have gloves on. They work as a spatula. Always do more or less frosting, whatever you want. Frosting doesn't add anything if you use coconut milk because it's 1 carb for a whole cup. You can also use an offset to touch things up. You want it more drippy. And last one. Once you get down to it, it's not going to cover as nice. This was actually like the exact right amount. It's just hard to dip once you get down that far. Okay, now we just gotta let these guys set up, and then we get to try one. Time to try a pumpkin spice donut. And I just thought of something real quick that I wanted to mention. I have a lot of this information plus some extra stuff in my blog post every week. Every recipe I make, I do a blog post, and I kind of, because I don't say everything every time in every video, like all the different tips. So, and all the different substitutions and stuff like that. So that'll all be in the blog post, Ketoupgrade.info. But on that note, like I mentioned, the butter being soft and it taking a really long time to whip. The donuts, they took a little bit longer than 18 minutes, but some of them were done in 18 minutes. So that all depends on how much batter you put into each donut. So baking isn't like a constant. There are so many variables that produce different outcomes. So just like I can't test high altitude, different temperatures, different humidity, different things like that, I can do as much testing as possible, like telling you have to do it between 18 and 22 minutes, depending on how full your donut molds are, depending on your ovens, stuff like that. But then you add keto baking on top of just regular baking, and there's a million other substitutions that people want and can be done, but I don't know them all and I don't test them all. Eventually, I will keep learning and keep growing and, try different things. But right now, I know that whey protein powder and coconut flour, more protein than coconut, makes a delicious baked good. And always adding xanthan gum or different gels, depending on the baked good. You add more. Same thing with psyllium husk. So I've learned a lot over the years, but I don't know every kind of protein powder, if it'll work. I just started dabbling with beef protein isolate. If you've seen my carrot cake recipe, I do have a dairy-free. So I've been trying to figure out, and also dairy-free for the vanilla cupcakes I just put out. So I've been figuring out dairy-free recipes because a lot of people want not whey protein. But the egg white protein substitutes and stuff like that, I don't know if they work. But sometime in the future, just subscribe and keep checking out for it, and eventually I will get to it. Enough on that note. Donuts. Did I sound like Homer? Donuts. These aren't completely set. They're pretty set, but when I touch it, it's going to melt because my hands are so hot. It got hot in here once the oven was on. It looks pretty delicious. They're soft, but they have chew. They're almost like tougher. like how cake donuts are. Like I said, this was an experiment. So the pumpkin spice is a little bit too much for me in here, like the ginger and clove and nutmeg. It's a little bit too spicy. Like I don't like that flavor as much, but it's kind of all to taste. It's still delicious, but it's definitely very spicy, like spiced. It's still soft, you can see. Whoa! I definitely think I meant to keep one without frosting to see how it tasted. It definitely needs the frosting, I think, just because we don't get that extra sweetness from apple cider, and there's really no sweetness in pumpkin puree. That's if you like sweet things. I say taste it before you frost it, depending on your, keto sweet tooth, because some people's keto sweet tooth is way less than mine. So that's just me. But these are super good. I wish I didn't fast so I can have this with a cup of coffee. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. You make it for, Thanksgiving breakfast. My mom used to get the Entenmann's cream cheese Danish on holidays, for people that can't have the pumpkin spice tidbits, So bring these over for your next little family get together. That way you have a little treat also. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed it. Tag me on Instagram or Facebook with pictures of your delicious desserts. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.